Yo, what's up guys, it's Cozy. Fontaine's top diver Freminet has finally decided to leave the House of Hearth in order to join his siblings Lynette and Linny in the game. Being a mixture of a physical and cryo on-field DPS, he is a valuable addition to anyone's 4-star roster. With the help of his adorable assistant PHYS, he can lay waste to your enemies. In this guide we will go over his talents, constellations, artifacts, weapons, as well as team composition. So if you're looking for a powerful 4-star DPS character, then Freminet is the character for you. First off, we have his normal attack, and unlike other characters, his normal attack is part of his core gameplay loop. Unfortunately, it is not special in itself, but in combination with his elemental skill, it becomes quite useful. As such, let us talk about his elemental skill specifically. His elemental skill Pressurized Flow unlocks his core gameplay loop. Whenever you use it, he enters PHYS timer for 10 seconds. You can see PHYS floating right next to Freminet, and he will show you the pressure level you're currently at. Each of his normal attacks will now do physical as well as cryo damage, and they will all increase the pressure level of PHYS. Each pressure level will have different effects. Level 0 will do full cryo damage, level 1 to 3 will do a combination of physical and cryo damage, and level 4 will deal full physical damage. Depending on what pressure level you want to use, you simply have to tap his elemental skill again. And if you want to use the last pressure level, you can simply keep using your normal attacks because his next normal attack will unleash pressure level 4. As such, you have a very simple yet effective gameplay loop. Use his elemental skill and then use your normal attacks in order to fully pressurize PHYS. After 5 attacks, you will unleash his elemental skill passively, and following that you just wait for it to come off cooldown in order to restart the whole process again. As simple as that. So, what does his elemental burst do, you might wonder? Well, it basically makes his elemental skill even better. When activating his elemental burst Shadowhunter's Ambush, you will immediately deal a huge amount of cryo damage. After that you gain increased resistance to interruption, the cooldown of his elemental skill will be reduced by 70%, and your normal attacks will now build up 2 pressure levels instead of 1. The really good thing here is that his elemental burst is active for 10 seconds, while only having a cooldown of 15 seconds. What that basically means is that you can use his elemental skill more often, and you build up stacks faster. As such, Freminet is a character that is fairly simple to play. Use his elemental burst and elemental skill on cooldown, and just smash your normal attack button. That is it. Of course, we are not done with his talent just yet. We still have his passives to go over. First up, we have Saturation Deep Dive. It reduces the cooldown of his elemental skill by 1 second whenever you use pressure level 0 to 3, instead of pressure level 4. Keep in mind that you need to actively release his elemental skill if you want to make use of that passive. The next passive, Parallel Condensers, increases the damage of your elemental skill by 40% for 5 seconds after triggering the Shatter reaction. Obviously, for that one to work, you need to have a Hydro character in your team. And with that, we are done with his talents. Let us now talk about his constellations. Keep in mind that Freminet is a 4-star character, so it is very likely that you will unlock all of his constellations eventually. Constellation 1 increases the crit rate of your elemental skill. Constellation 2 increases your energy regeneration whenever you unleash his elemental skill. Constellation 3 and 5 do the same as they always do. Constellation 4 increases your attack by up to 18% whenever you trigger Frozen, Shatter or Superconduct. And lastly, Constellation 6 does the same as Constellation 4, only that it increases your crit damage instead of your attack. One thing to point out here is that all of his constellation increases damage. As such, there's no constellation that really outshines the others. They are all fairly good. Next up, we have his artifacts, and depending on what team you want to build, his artifacts and sets are going to change. Thankfully, there are 3 stats that are going to remain the same for all of his builds: crit rate and crit damage, attack, as well as energy recharge. A good guideline here is to go for a 1:2 ratio of crit rate and crit damage, as well as around 140% energy recharge. Obviously, his goblet should either be physical or cryo damage, depending on what build you want to play. Now, what builds are there, you might be wondering? Well, first up we have a physical DPS build, and for that one you can use a 4-piece Pale Flame set, or you could go for a double 2-piece physical set or double 2-piece attack set. It is basically up to you, what you want to farm, what you have, all of that stuff. Next up we have a cryo build, and considering that most of his cryo damage comes from his elemental skill, the new Golden 12 set is actually really good on Freminet, even when he's an on-field DPS. Other sets you can use are 2-piece cryo sets or 2-piece attack sets, just like the previous build basically. One thing to point out here is that a set that focuses on increasing his normal attack damage is not really that good on Freminet, contrary to belief, because a large portion of his damage comes from his elemental skill, so we do not want to use those sets. Of course, there are also a few other builds you could go for example bloom and melt reactions, but in order to keep the video relatively short, I will not go into too much detail here. All you need to know is that elemental mastery becomes a really good stat when it comes to elemental reactions, but I'm sure that there are also other guides out there that focus on elemental reaction teams for Freminet, rather than cryo or physical teams. Now let us talk about his weapons, and once again, in some cases it depends on what you want to build. Let us quickly go over some of the weapons and you can decide for yourself what you want to use. First up we have the free-to-play Forcer weapons. Prototype Archaic, Tidal Shadow and the Snow Tomb Star Silver are all really good options. You can simply farm the materials in game, craft them and you're good to go. Next up we have a not so free-to-play friendly Forster weapon, the Serpent Spine. You get that one from the Battle Pass and it is a really good option. This weapon has a special place for me because it was the first Claymore weapon that I used and it carried me through the game for quite a while. So if you have it, use it. And lastly, we have our 5-star options. All of them are really good. Skyward Pride is good, Redhorn is good, Song of Broken Pines is good and so on. And obviously they all come with different substats, so depending on what you need, you can choose for yourself. And finally, let us now talk about team composition. For this we are going to focus on two teams that I mentioned earlier, physical as well as cryo teams. For a physical team you want to focus on having at least one electro character with you in order to trigger Superconduct. This will increase your physical damage by reducing your opponent's resistance to it. Characters that can be used for that are Fischl, Kuki, Raiden Shogun or even Yae Miko. The next character that you're most likely going to use is Bennett. We all know him, we all love him, he is broken, so use it. Of course, if you use him, maybe not use Kuki because we don't want to have two healers in the same party. But if you don't have any other electro characters, then you can still use her. That leaves us with one slot to fill, and a character that would work really well here is the second cryo character. You can use whoever you have, but Rosaria, for example, is a perfect fit for this team. Her constellations are made for physical teams, and you also get crit rate due to having two cryo characters in the same team. When it comes to cryo teams, what we want to focus on is to make use of a second passive, the Shatter passive. For that one we obviously need a Hydro character. You can use Barbara, Kokomi, Zincho or even Yelan. They all work really well for this composition. After that we use another cryo character. Once again Rosaria works really well here, but you could also use any other cryo support character. That leaves us with one slot left to fill. It can be Bennett if you don't have a healer yet. This will also unlock the ability to trigger melt reactions. Or it can be an animal character like Lynette if you're using Barbara or Kokomi as healers. Lynette, due to her swirls and Variodescent Venera set, will increase the cryo damage you do. But keep in mind that these are just some of the teams you could go for. In the end it depends on what characters you have, but I think the basic team principle is fairly easy to understand. Alright, with that we are at the end of the guide. Freminet's damage output is more or less in line with that of the other Forcer characters in the game, but what surprised me the most is his simple yet fun playstyle. He's basically a button smasher, and if you're looking for a good physical DPS, or if you are new to the game generally speaking, then Freminet is a character worth pulling. But as always, in the end that is up to you to decide. If you liked the guide, feel free to let me know in the comments, and also feel free to let me know what you think about Freminet yourself. Other than that, thanks for watching, I wish you all a great day and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.